Oh, hi. Didn't see you there.
In the early 20th century, Canada was experiencing the Great Depression, where it was similar to that of the US. It was similar to that of the US in that there was high unemployment rates and low GNP. Imports fell by 55% while export fell by 25%. And during this time, William Lyon Mackenzie King, the Prime Minister of Canada, was of the Liberal Party, but took an approach similar to that of the US in that they believed in laissez-faire.
Richard Bedford Bennett was elected to office as a result of growing dissatisfaction with King's inaction. Serving as Canada's Prime Minister from 1930 to 1935, Bennett represented the Conservative Party and, similarly to his predecessor, ultimately believed that government should interfere as little as possible in the free enterprise system. However, with the growing effect of the Depression, Bennett was pushed to take action and attempt to regulate the economy through traditional policies. These efforts included passing the Bank of Canada Act in 1934 to establish the nation's private central bank, as well as raising tariffs, known as the Bennett tariffs, to unprecedented levels with the purpose of protecting Canadian markets and convincing Britain to offer Canada some preferential trading opportunities. Another response that is so often associated with Bennett's term is the creation of unemployment relief camps, which grew to be unpopular because they did not offer concrete ways to get back to work. These attempts to ease the Depression's effects ultimately proved to be unsuccessful, as manifested in the On to Ottawa trek. In 1935, over 1,000 men left their relief camps in British Columbia to go on strike and head toward Vancouver, where they aired concerns about the government's ineffective actions. Bennett refused the delegation's commands, breaking up the protest with police forces. This deemed the effort to be a failure, and it plagued the Prime Minister's career.
Bennett would be considered a failure in that it gave rise to many other political parties, such as the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation and the Social Credit Party. This failure would ultimately lead to Mackenzie King's rise to power again, where he would implement his own moderate reforms, where he passed reciprocal trade with the US and accepted governmental intervention, which ultimately pulled Canada out of the Depression.
Japanese internment in Canada was officially caused by the Japanese military attack on Pearl Harbor. However, it was also the result of long-term discrimination held towards the Japanese population by the white Canadians. The Japanese population in Canada was imprisoned without trial, while their property was illegally seized and sold to fund internment. While in turn, the Japanese were used as slave labor on farms and orchards, and were subjected to conditions such as poorly made tents, little privacy, no utilities such as electricity or running water or heat, which made the harsh Canadian winter even worse, censorship, enforced curfews, interrogations, and property loss. After internment, many Japanese Canadians voluntarily were deported back to Japan due to the conditions they faced in the internment camps. Other Japanese individuals moved east to areas like Toronto to find agricultural work. However, they still faced heavy discrimination. And only after 4 years past World War II did Japanese receive full civil rights such as the right to vote. The internment of Japanese Canadians resulted in thousands of families being separated, and the loss of cultural identity, especially in younger generations of Japanese individuals. However, the Japanese Canadian redress movement attempted to achieve justice for those who are still alive, and in 1988, Prime Minister Brian Mulroney offered a formal apology and settlement of $21,000 per person interned.
Pierre Trudeau was the Prime Minister of Canada from 1968 to 1979 and was re-elected again in 1984. He established the idea of federalism within Canada, which was the idea that French and English Canadians were equal, and to promote this idea, he officially declared Canada as a bilingual nation, establishing French and English as the official languages of Canada. He introduced major reformation that benefited underrepresented groups, mostly homosexuals and minorities, within Canada. He led the nation through the Quebec separatist movement, where Quebec demanded to secede but was stopped from seceding. He was instrumental in establishing Canada as a sovereign nation within the Commonwealth.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Jean Diefenbacher. Je suis le Premier ministre du Canada. Je suis un défenseur des droits civils de toutes les personnes dont je voulais faire une déclaration des droits. Certains de mes autres politiques étant les Euro-projets que j'annulais plus tard et j'ai signé l'accord NORA avec les États-Unis. J'ai aussi fait le traité de fleuve Columbia avec eux, qui a construit 3 barrages pour nous.
The Quiet Revolution was a massive socioeconomic and cultural change in Quebec. Quebec was rural and less educated before the Revolution. It was a shift away from old Catholic views, and Quebec demanded to be secular in government and education. This quiet revolution was led by the Liberal Union Party. There was a large resentment of wealthy English speakers within Quebec. This led to French becoming the official language of Quebec, with English becoming a secondary language. Quebec increased taxes to provide more modern services to population, which completed the establishment of the Quebec welfare state.